Hi guys, it's Matt from howtogardendesign.com, back again with part 2 of my 7-step garden design guide. It looks at unpacking inspiration to help you define exactly what you want in your backyard garden. This video will cover how to break down an image into individual components, how to describe what you like about those individual components, and we'll do that through 2 filters, physical elements and design elements. More on those later. We'll then look at the importance of changing it up, how altering some elements in the image will confirm you like or dislike something. Finally, we'll summarize everything into a few flexible criteria to follow during the design process. I call this process unpacking an image. You put any image through this process and generate a list of flexible ideas or criteria. The aim is to use it over and over and over again with different images. Over time, you will refine a list of criteria for any features, activities, or areas you want to include in your backyard. Some images may give you one idea, others will give you many. It may seem like a lot of effort initially, but over time, you use it unconsciously when analysing inspiration or any space around you. Pretty soon, you may not need to go through all the steps, and can pick and choose things very quickly to add to your list of criteria for the different activities, features, or areas of your garden. So let's get into it. Most people design their backyard in the following way. They place certain activities or features where they think they should go in a backyard, then they try and find images or inspiration to fill each area. This means each area is designed individually with no links to others and often has no overall theme or concept. We want to do the opposite. Create a list of criteria for each activity or feature we want and go through the design process to find the best area in the garden for them. This requires flexible ideas that can be placed in many potential locations. It also lets us use the local environment to shape the area for that activity or feature. To create this list of flexible ideas or criteria, we can unpack inspiration. My step 1 video outlined places to find inspiration: images, videos, and the world around you. In this case, we'll focus on images as they're easy to find and plentiful. We can use a single image for an activity or feature, or multiple. You may only like one thing in the image, or many, and want to copy them all. This process helps you define what you like in each image, and create a list of must or maybe criteria for each activity or feature you want to have in your backyard. And one thing to stress before we begin: creating a list of criteria for an activity or feature doesn't mean you must include it. It's simply there, ready to go, if you decide you want to include this activity, feature, or item in your design. As we'll see when I go through the process, not every item I unpack will be crammed into a design. Over time, through unpacking images, I will build a list of criteria for each area or activity that will form the basis of my design. So you might be wondering, why do we do this? Well, when you start designing, it's easy to get lost in the details. You can redesign the same area again and again and again and again and again. Knowing when to stop and move on to another area can really save time. So how do you know when to stop? Unpacking images and developing criteria gives you a checklist to follow for each activity or feature in your backyard. Ensuring you've ticked each box will let you know you can move on to another area. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but this gives you an idea of what this process aims to generate. The design process itself is cyclical, and you'll no doubt come back to change and refine areas a few times. Good design uses the site and environment to shape the areas, activities, or spaces you are designing. Don't make it something you can cut and paste into any location. Try and use the unique aspects of your backyard or garden and incorporate them into your design. Once again, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. If you haven't given it much thought though, it can be helpful writing down a simple list of all the activities or features you want in your backyard. You may have an image or two already for inspiration. Take one, or quickly find one now to follow through the unpacking process as I go through it. So, let's have a look at unpacking. I have this image from a backyard by Ritz Exterior Design in Perth, Australia. I'll go through the process and unpack what I like in the image. I'll develop some flexible criteria of must or maybe ideas I want to use in my design. The best way to approach this is to break the image down into individual components, which are physical items or activity or feature areas. We then look at these components through 2 lenses: the physical elements and the design elements, which I'll describe shortly. For example, my components in this image may be physical items like the fire pit, the bench seating, or the timber framework. All the components may be an area for an activity, such as the dining area, including the decking and paving, the kitchen area, or the feature like the garden beds. To get started on your image, take a piece of paper and write down on one side any components in the image you like. Next, make 2 columns, one for physical elements, the other for design elements. Physical elements are the size, the shape, the colors, the materials, and the finish of the materials for a component. Design elements consider what a function the component provides. Think shade, noise reduction, additional seating, things like that. We also look at the layout of an area, how the items in that area shape the space and change how it feels. Finally, the combination or contrast of materials and any other things that interest you. It's a little bit more theoretical, but it should get you thinking about spaces a little bit differently. These descriptions aren't rigid. They're just some extra things to consider when looking through your image. So let's go through mine and outline some of the components that pop out to me. I'll make some notes on the physical and design elements I like as well. The big one that caught my eye, and I'm sure caught yours, is the timber framework. Physically, I like the heavy timber beams. Design-wise, I love the concept. Having this framework helps separate the backyard into rooms. You have a support structure in place to provide any shelter or protection if you need it, and it's flexible enough to apply to many different environments, such as a sloping backyard. I also really like the fire pit. I like the steel material and the shape of it. I also like the way it's raised, which allows you to rest your feet near it like an ottoman. It appears to be gas, which is easy to maintain and consistent, if not as rustic. Finally, the dining and kitchen area. I like the use of timber and paving. The combination of timber and paving provides a warm and cool colour and material palette which is easy to apply to other areas. The paving is a nice light colour, so you won't burn your feet during summer. The functionality of having a good kitchen outside is also useful. Finally, the pergola above the table provides good flexibility depending on the weather. So these are some of the components I like in the image. Now we're going to do something many people wouldn't think of, which will help us decide how much I like the things I listed. This next step requires you to use your imagination, or better yet, a little bit of sketching and drawing, just to test some of those assumptions we've made. What we're going to do is change it up. We're going to alter some of the elements of a component, think size, colour, material, position, and see if it changes our mind on what we wrote down previously. If you can look at the image and imagine the changes, that's fine. If not, grab another piece of paper, and it's time to start sketching, and don't be afraid. These are working drawings, they're not a final plan. In fact, the messier the better. And you'll see that with my terrible sketches later. Let's have a look at the first element and make a few changes to see if I really do like it as it is, or if there's some flexibility in how I can implement that idea. Currently the beams are timber. What if I change the colour to a darker or a lighter shade? What if I make the beams thinner but only one solid beam? What if they're steel? Or another material? And what if I change the shape? Perhaps I try and curve them. You can see my sketches are terrible. All they have to do is represent some changes to give me an idea of how it might look, short and sweet. Personally, I like the timber over steel, and I prefer the straight lines over curved. I also like the square cut rather than cylinder. Finally, the thickness is good, but I could see myself choosing something thinner if needed. Overall, the timber frame concept is a great one, and in terms of materials, I'd probably consider some other elements in my overall design and see how timber I use elsewhere will dictate the exact size and shape of the beams. Another consideration down the line, although less of a concern now, is the availability of materials and the cost. These may influence what I can use and the sizes and lengths of the timber beams. Next, let's look at the fire pit. Let's change the material. What if it's a solid stone basin, or perhaps set into a bench? What if it's a long, thin line rather than a bowl? What if I lower the pit closer to ground level? Once again, nothing about this specific fire pit is a must for me. I like the concept of it more than this specific design. I do like the raised level, however, so that's something I'll take note of in the final step. What about the dining and kitchen area? Let's swap the materials, paving in and decking out. What about the size of the pavers? Large versus small? Or the width of the timber slats? And let's remove the pergola. We'll leave it open. Or can I replace it with a ceiling? The kitchen is a bit hard to see, so let's leave it out for now. I think I prefer lighter paving. It's better for summer, as I said earlier. The shape of the paving is nice, but I'd probably be okay with changing it in my design. So, having changed a few of the elements of each component, I have a bit more of an idea of what is a must and what is a maybe. The final step involves writing down a few key points, or criteria, for this image, or better yet, for any activities, features, or areas I've unpacked. Taking another sheet, I can make a simple heading for each component. Under these, let's summarize my notes above. Fire pit. Material can be flexible. Gas, if it's cost effective. The shape is also flexible, but I do like the idea of a longer line or surface area. A must for me would be raised or having a bench or rest area for feet nearby, provided it can be safe. Timber framework. Really great concept, and I'll try and include that if possible. Square cut timber is preferred. Size and specific timber to match potential decking or other timber used. Dining and kitchen area. Decking colour is flexible. I do prefer thinner slats. And the paving colour, I think I prefer a lighter colour. Paver shape is also flexible. Again, I prefer thinner, but I can base it on other material choices. You'll probably notice that I've mentioned a lot of physical elements and labelled them flexible. This means I like the component, but I'm not in love with the material choice, colour, size or shape, etc. I'll probably find another image later on that has a material palette I prefer. When that happens, I can add those elements to the list of criteria for each activity or feature. This will help me refine the list of criteria and connect different areas through using the same materials, colours, or other physical elements. One thing to keep in mind is that although I haven't necessarily created any must criteria from this image, it has helped me uncover a few concepts I'd like to try and add in my future design. I love the timber framework idea and will keep it in mind when designing. Also, the addition of a fire pit and kitchen area, assuming I have the money and the inclination to spend it. Same thing with materials. I like the decking and paving areas, even though I won't know those exact materials. Perhaps going through a few more images I'll find something I really like. I have my concept of a decking or paving area already. Now I can add specific colour, shape, size and material to it. If I don't find other materials or finishes I really love, it may come down to what is most cost effective and available at the time. Again, the idea or concept is flexible, allowing me to get what I want, but I adapt it to local conditions and constraints such as money, availability, and indeed your local environment. Remember, this process is all about gathering inspiration and defining some concepts or elements you like and want to apply to your design. Over time, looking at images, you'll build up a list of criteria for your fire pit, framework, dining area, or perhaps another new activity or feature you hadn't considered but now want to include. Or you'll find an idea that links different areas of the design together, kind of like the framework in my image. Going through this process will help you build that flexible list of criteria and allow you to try different things in different parts of your site. You can see what works and what doesn't, and use your environment to create something unique and personal to you. So, to summarize the 4 steps. Unpack. Collect images and break them down into components you like. Define. Analyze and describe the different physical and design elements you like about these components. Change it up. Change the elements around and test if the elements are a must or a more flexible maybe. And criteria. Write down what you discovered in a few key points, your list of criteria. I hope this video was helpful for you. Feel free to leave a comment, subscribe, like or dislike it, and check out my channel or my site howtogardendesign.com.